In this episode, we are going to be creating a simple coin game asset in Blender 2.8. Blender is an extremely powerful 3D modeling tool. It's open source and absolutely free, and it's actually pretty simple to learn. This isn't going to be a full-on Blender tutorial. There are a lot of Blender tutorials out there for brand new beginners, but I will be kind of explaining what I'm doing along the way. It should be pretty simple to follow, so if you're absolutely new to using Blender, just kind of follow along and do as I do and just kind of get the gist of how this program works. So if you don't want to go through this process and learn how to make this game asset, I will leave a link in the description down below to download this coin so you don't have to worry about modeling it yourself. And so yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so go ahead and start up a new Blender project. I have my shortcut viewer here set up so you can see what I'm doing down here on this bottom corner. And the only thing that I want to note before we get started is if we go to, my mouse will stay plugged in, if we go to Edit and Preferences, and then under the Key Mapping section, I have my select width set to right mouse button and my spacebar action button set to search. In Blender 2.8, it automatically defaults to play and left mouse button, but in the older versions of Blender, it was always set to right and search. And that's how I learned how to use Blender, so that's what I'm used to. So I'm going to leave it set to those. So if you made that change, go ahead and hit these three bars down here and click Save Preferences. And let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to select this camera, hit X and delete, and also we're going to select the cube and hit X and delete because we're not going to use either one of those. We're actually not even going to use this light here, but we will leave it here for now so that we can look at our coin when we're finished making it. We can go into the rendered view and see what it looks like, and then we will delete this light afterwards because we don't want this light to export out to Unity or anything like that. So what we can do now is if we hit Shift A, we can add a new mesh, and we're going to add a circle. And then let's go into front view by hitting 1 on the number pad, and then we can hit R to rotate, X to lock it to the X axis, and then type in 90 to rotate it 90 degrees. If we hit enter, it will apply that change, and then we can hit 3 on our number pad to snap to the right view. So now what I want to do is I want to go into edit mode by clicking this drop down menu here and selecting edit mode, or you can hit the tab button to switch between object and edit mode. So we want to hit A to make sure all of our vertices here are selected, E to extrude, and we want to also lock that to the y-axis by hitting Y. We're going to pull this back just a little bit, probably about like, let's say that far. And then back in object mode, let's go ahead and hit the spacebar and type in set origin. We select that and click geometry to origin. You'll see that all of our geometry moved back towards the center of this world. So now what we can do is go back into edit mode by hitting tab. We can hit Control R to add a loop cut, and we're going to add a loop cut all the way around this circle. So left click to select that loop cut, and then we can right click to make sure that that loop cut goes directly in the center here. So let's hit Z and select wireframe mode. I'm going to double tap A to deselect everything, and then we're going to left click and drag to box select all of these vertices here on the right. So let's go ahead and delete those by hitting X and selecting vertices, and let's add a new modifier to this. So over here on the right hand side, this little wrench here, this is our modifiers tab. Let's go ahead and add a modifier, and the modifier we want is this mirror modifier. And that's just going to mirror anything that we do to one half of this object. but we don't want it on the x-axis, so let's delete or deselect that. We want this to be on our z-axis. And then I also want to enable clipping. I don't think we're not gonna be really doing anything with these center vertices here, but I just want to make sure that that's selected, so just in case anything happens, we don't want these to kind of pull apart. So now what we can do is if we hold Alt and right click any of these outside vertices, it will select this entire loop here. What I want to do is go hit 1 on our number pad to go to the front view, and we're going to hit E to extrude. Now, we don't want to pull this any of these directions like this, so if we right click, it will deselect that movement. We can hit S to scale, and it'll scale that extrusion down a little bit. So let's pull that down to, let's say about right there or so. We're going to hit 3 on our number pad to go to the side view. We're going to hit E to extrude. We're going to hit Y to lock it to the Y-axis. And we're going to pull that in to, let's say, about there or so, just a little bit. So now if we go back to the front view by hitting 1 on our number pad, we can extrude one more time, right-click to cancel the movement, S to scale, and let's scale that in just a little bit. So about that far should be good. Now, with this loop still selected, we can hit F to add a face. So now if we go back into object mode, hit Z to get out of wireframe mode, select solid here, we can see that we now have a coin-like shape. So that is exactly what we want it to look like, except we have all of these lines here, these visible lines. I don't want that in there. I want it to be a little bit more smooth. So what we can do is just go to Object here, this menu, this Object menu, and come down to Shade Smooth. So that's going to get rid of a lot of those lines there. It's going to make it a little bit more smooth, but I don't like these round edges. So to get rid of those, we can either add a bevel modifier, but I don't want to do that because it's going to add, sometimes it just doesn't quite work the way you want it to, and in this case it doesn't. So it just seems to be a little bit extra work. So I'm just going to go hit Tab and go back into edit mode. And we're going to add a couple extra loop cuts in here. So we're going to say Control R and add a loop cut around this inside rim. And we're going to drag this over closer to this inside edge here, like that. I'm going to add one more, just like that, all the way around, and drag it to this outside edge, like that. And let's do the same thing around this side here. So Control R to add a loop cut here that goes all the way around and bring it down close to that edge. Let's do it one more time, add a loop cut and bring it up here to this edge. And we're going to make one more loop cut up here around this outside side and bring that up to this edge. Now we're not going to do this on this left side because these kind of join together. There's no edge here to round out. So that should be fine just like that. So if we go back into object mode, that looks a little bit better. We have our shape of our coin the way we want it. But we still kind of have these sharp edges here. They're not as prominent as they were before, but they're still there. So let's go ahead and add one more modifier to this. We're going to make sure that our modifiers tab is selected, add modifier, and we're just going to do a subdivision surface. And that will make it more round, just like that. So now we can't see those edges. So now what I want to do is if we open up this menu over here, not our shortcut viewer, but our items window here, you'll see that the dimensions of this are set to 1.99 meters, and that's going to give us an extremely large coin compared to our player. So I want to bring this down just a little bit. Let's go ahead and set these dimensions a little bit smaller so we can just hit S to scale down. And I want to scale it down until it says about 0.6 or so. It doesn't need to be exactly or anything like that, but I do want to make it about 0.6 or so. So that's going to be about 3 feet in imperial units if you are American like I am. But 0.6 meters is good. So now what we can do, I can just close out this menu by dragging it in some. And I want to add a material to this. So over here is the materials tab. We can just select that and click new. And all I want to do is just add a color to this. So under this base color, I can select this here, and we can just make this a yellowish gold color. And I think that's really all I want to do with this coin. So let's go ahead and take a look at it in our rendered view, just like that, by selecting this little circle here. And you know, that's what I want it to look like. I like it. So yeah, that looks pretty good. So now what we can do back in solid mode, we can find that light. Where is that light? Here it is. Let's select that light, hit X to delete, and we can just save this file here to wherever you like. I'm going to name this coin, hit enter, and save Blender file. So that's all we really want to do with this. So if you're enjoying the series, if you learned something from this, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe down below. Make sure you leave a comment. Let me know what you think of the series so far, what you want added into the game, and I will see you guys next time.